identify one, I did say one thought pattern or behavior that you wish to let go of from this current year as you transition into the new year and beyond. Identify it with a very high degree of specificity, which is not just me naming it, but also understanding the specific verbs associated with that behavior, right? I think verbs are really powerful as a means to bring specificity. So you're talking about picking it up, you're talking about looking at it, you're talking about scrolling. So a lot of verbs are good. Bring as much specificity to it, write it down, say it out loud, ideally to someone else. If you can't do it to someone else, then just write it down and say it out loud. If you wanted, you could place that in a prominent place. Some people do that. I don't happen to do that. If I did that, my home would be covered with sticky notes. My home is actually covered with a lot of sticky notes, but not about those sorts of things. Then the other thing is to keep in touch with that practice by understanding that the more specificity you bring to the letting go, which is essentially this long-term depression, that you can think about that particular behavior as a series of steps that you wish to undo. And again, that's bringing more specificity to the particular types of connections that you want to depress or uncouple. Then there's the learning or remember that there is no deletion or absent brain space. It's all used. And so you need to replace that now quieted neural circuitry with a different behavior or thought pattern. Pick one, and I do mean one. It doesn't have to occur at the exact same time, although that would be great. In the example I gave you before, it was the morning sunlight or bright light viewing. If you can't access sunlight for 10 minutes, just as by way of example. But if you're already doing that, great. There again, more specificity, set a time. The more specificity, the better. Write it down, articulate it to yourself, ideally to someone else. And in addition to that, you want to set the time bin. I think it's reasonable to try and accomplish this on January 1 and January 2. I kind of like 2-day time bins. I feel like if you do it on a day-to-day basis, there's always the possibility that you would do it one day and not the next. I kind of like doing 2 days at a time. That's it. For some reason, for me, that's very tractable. I don't know what it would be for any of you, but there are certain things that perhaps you wouldn't want to do 2 days in a row. But setting a time bin in which you are as close to certain as possible, or certain that you would be able to accomplish it in that time bin. Decide, I'm going to do this for 2 days. I'm going to do this for 2 days. I'm going to do this for 1 day. And it might even be shorter than that. And then there's the reinforcement of that over time. And we didn't really touch on this, but the reinforcement over time involves making sure that if it's becoming reflexive, that you don't take that reflex action for granted. I did see in the questions, and I get asked a lot, and I think Pat gets asked this a lot, is it true it takes 21 days to learn a new habit? Is it 6 days? Is it 67 days? It's going to scale with whether or not it's a positive or negative experience, and it's also going to scale with the intensity of that experience. So I don't think we can put any specific number of days to it. I think what we want to come away with from all of this is the sense that this very powerful real estate that we have behind our forehead, our prefrontal cortex, is indeed the way in which that we can embark this behavioral change, both the unlearning, the letting go, and the learning, the adoption of new thoughts and behaviors.